Alright, so what's going on, guys? It's your boy Nistro here, and welcome back to another video. I've gotten a lot of requests as to how I would play Gate Guardian in 2025, and I don't think that I've put too much thought into it last year, but this year I kind of locked in a bit. And the sad thing is that I already kind of knew the answer. I just didn't really want to admit it, at least not in a video, but I did some testing and I figured, in my opinion, this is the best way to play Gate Guardian, because the best way to play the deck is to play the deck in a way that it doesn't lose to hand traps, and that I feel like is the mentality that people need to be successful with this deck. So how can we play this deck without it losing the hand trap? As you can see, even my extra deck is kind of blinged out. Typhon's going to be in the extra deck, but it's about to come in Stampede, so you don't have to worry about this QCR right here. You guys will be, you'll have more than enough of these available post Stampede. And maybe even post Stampede, I might say you may even want to run more. There have been a lot of videos I've made about Gate Guardian throughout the years, and a lot of those videos have been more combo based in terms of like how I wanted to play Gate Guardian, but I kind of figured it just didn't work. No matter how I built the combos, all they did was just eat up hand traps. Like, you open any kind of combo and it just lost to the first hand trap that your opponent put down on field. So I tried to make a build that isn't as vulnerable to hand traps and isn't as vulnerable to your normal interruption, so that it could do more with less. And the combo builds kind of peaked when Baron and Appaloosa were around, so now that Baron and Appaloosa are banned, I feel like we need to take a simpler approach to how we play Gate Guardian. Simple but effective, right? So starting with our elements, right? And as you guys can see, the inner sleeves, it has like the shatter foil. These are from Imperium Duelist. I've had these inner sleeves for like years. I usually keep them on my more casual decks. Sorry to say, they look fucking beautiful, and then like when the card under the sleeve is hollow is great. Usually I use these for decks that are full of common cards, but Konami did bless us with some ultra rares in the Megatins last year, which aren't my favorite rarity, but it's better than nothing, right? So you have your elements, you have 2 heavy tank. I opted for 2 because the way that I play this deck is you do have 3 other normal summons, and it's just 3 more, so that's it. It's not that tank is a bad card, but it's just like, when you have 2 normal summons in your hand, this deck can't really do anything. You're not really playing rank 7s in this build. It's a good card, but I think it's just, the engine is too slow for you to rely on playing too many of these, right? Like, it's not your crutch card. It's just another potential way to get a Gate Guardian on field. So next we have triple of our Shadow Ghoul, which also got an ultra rare reprint in the Megatins last year. And Shadow Ghoul is cool, right? Because it searches your field spell and, you know, protection from battle. And then we have our triple field spell, our triple wall shadow, which should be of no surprise to anyone, and terraforming to get extra ways into wall shadow. So no matter how you break this deck or how you build this deck, it's going to be a 2-card combo anyway. So you want to have the most number of ways into 2 ways to slap an element on the field without them conflicting each other. And so I figured that the next best thing that we can play is also a set rotation to set up our field spell. So now it's not just 6 ways into field spell, not just 7, now it's 8 ways into field spell. And you may be wondering what other field spell is there to play with a card like set rotation. Set rotation works great for multi-universe, right? And this is a card that was formerly TCG exclusive for a bit last year. It came out around the same time that like Ashen came out. Essentially what it does is, if you don't control a face-up card in your field spell zone, you can target a field spell that is banished or in your graveyard, destroy this card, and if you do, place that target face up. So essentially this just reactivates your wall shadow. And right, if you set rotation and you already have a wall shadow, I suggest you do wall shadow first and then set rotation second, and you just give them the multi-universe, so that way if the multi-universe were to leave the field while it's in graveyard, it's actually protection for your field spell. So it doesn't just put the field spell on field, it also protects it, which makes this a better version of pseudo space. So that's why this card's pretty good in this deck. And then our next field spell target is Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This theory of Secret Village is going to be a little better once I show you guys some of the next cards, but essentially we're playing like a few extra field spells, because not just for set rotation and being able to grab multi-universe, but also because it grabs us a floodgate, you can say. This is only the beginning of the extra field spell play, so I figured that the best normal summon in this deck, maybe besides Heavy Tank or Prisma, would be triple Planet Pathfinder, right? Your Mars rover, your Curiosity, your Perseverance, and whatever the rest of them were called, right? Very simple card, right? So you just tribute it and you add a field spell from your deck to your hand. I figured that the best way to play through hand traps in this deck is to rely more on Wall Shadow's ability to just slap these things on field without really needing to worry about, which, I mean, this one does play into hand traps, but they have to time their hand trap correctly, and they may want to save whatever they have because it may not feel as relevant against a Pathfinder, right? Because if you normal summon this and then they stop you from accessing a field spell, you may already have the field spell in your hand. So it may not be relevant for them. It may not be strong enough for them to actually stop this, right? Unless you literally have nothing else. So I figured Pathfinder's pretty good here. And then the real secret tech of the deck, right? This is really the only new card that you really have to learn how to use. It is Cosmo Queen, the Queen of Prayers. And this one is basically if Ancient Fairy Dragon was a main deck monster. So what it does is that when a field spell is activated, either yours or your opponent's, it has a trigger effect to special summon itself out from the hand, and then it can do one of two effects as an ignition effect. I really wish this was quick effect, but as an ignition effect, it can do one of two things. It can either pop your field spell and add another, or it can negate your opponent's field spell and add any field spell from deck to hand. When this pops yours and then adds another field spell, it has to be one with a different name. But that's not a big deal because of multi-universe, right? So you can pop Wall Shadow and then add multi-universe, and then multi-universe can just send itself to graveyard to reactivate Wall Shadow. So essentially this makes Wall Shadow a 2-card combo. So now you basically have more ways to 2-card combo into one of your smaller Gate Guardian names. So now it's not just Heavy Tank plus Wall Shadow. Now it's Ghoul plus Shadow, or Tank plus... Tank doesn't really do well with anything on this side except set rotation. That's why we cut Tank down to 2. But if you do like Wall Shadow plus multi-universe, that's good. If you do Shadow Ghoul plus multi-universe, that's good. If you do Ghoul plus set rotation, you're good. If you do Pathfinder plus Cosmo Queen, that's full combo, because this is going to search a field spell, this is going to search field spell number 1, this is going to search field spell number 2. If you have Wall Shadow plus Cosmo Queen, that's full combo. Well, not full combo, but it's still pretty good. And if you already have access to enough field spells, like if you have access to 2 of them already and you still have Cosmo Queen, then she gets to search Secret Village, and as a spellcaster, that essentially makes her a Floodgate searcher with the archetype. So I figure that this core of like field spell focused gameplay is the best way to utilize the Gate Guardian engine, simply because it's like it keeps you doing what you want to do. When you play some of these combo decks and you start to brick on some of the Gate Guardian pieces mixed with some of the bricks of the combo engine, then it kind of just starts to feel even worse. Like your bottom line is so much worse, where it's like your bottom line here, like opening multi-universe plus Heavy Tank, sure, it's not great, but you're still getting somewhere where it's like, okay, as soon as I open this, even if they have like a detonator or a Ghost Ogre for Wall Shadow, I still have multi-universe to get myself back in the game. So it's not like I'm too hurt by my opponent having an interruption for some of my stuff. So that's the main engine. Now for the supplemental Gate Guardian engine, which I still think is somewhat necessary, you have double attack, Wind and Thunder, just 1, since it's a quick effect pop. Double Dark Element, since it allows you to basically get your strongest fusion on field, and 1 Jirai Gumo, because the combo that works with Dark Element gives you a link monster, and you pretty much just set this under the other link zone and just pop whatever link monster they summon. or you can use this to discard. So if you have a effect that discards, you can discard this, and then add an element from banished or from deck to hand, and then you can. So it's okay to send this to grave. It's okay to like have it in hand to set it. So I figure these are the best ratios. And then I am still playing the one Dark Guardian, simply because it's like this is our grind game. After a certain point, we really do love the ability to use your names from anywhere to summon out combined, but I feel like focusing too much on the Gate Guardian fusions gives this deck too much of a blind spot when it comes to utility cards in the extra deck. So you want to save your utility cards for like problem solvers like Typhon and like SP, so that you aren't like too restricted when you're trying to play into and around certain things. So I like this the best, and obviously if you summon this off a Dark Element, it's unaffected by monster and spell effects, and it also cannot be destroyed by battle normally. So it's just a really good card, and if you open it, there are a few ways that your engine can discard it or get rid of it. So next are the secret techs, right? So souls. I cut souls down to 1 in this deck for a reason that I'll explain in a bit, but essentially it's still a really good extender and draw 2. And sometimes you may not want to send Kazejin from deck to graveyard simply because your Gate Guardian cards do not place 2 spell and trap zone from the graveyard. So that's really good because now you have Cosmo Queen that you can mill off of Magician Souls. So it's not that big of a deal if you happen to. So you don't need to double up on Kazejin now that you have another spellcaster in deck that you can use with this. And Nemesis Corridor. If you're not aware already, this is a 1-card way into Thunder Dragon Colossus. So if you have any monster that's banished, then you put it back, special summon this, and because it was an activated effect in the hand, you contribute this to summon out Colossus. You have access to an extra way to stop your opponent from playing the game. Now for our other secret killer is Super Polymerization. This is the most efficient way for this deck to break boards. This deck gets you a lot of discard fodder because a lot of the Gate Guardian engine, it's like if it's discarded or sent to graveyard, add to another card from deck or banished to hand, meaning that you will almost always have something to discard for Super Poly. I've actually even considered playing something like Gamma in this deck because there's going to be a lot of times where you're activating stuff and you don't have anything on field. So I think something like Gamma could fit perfectly well into this deck because you have a lot of ways to, well, you have a decent number of ways to discard and get rid of things, and you also have like ways to like play into boards and stuff. You can definitely play a third one of these. I just figured that the deck size was getting a little large. So next are the secret killers. This is what separates our Gate Guardian deck from most other Gate Guardian decks, right? And it's Solemn Strikes. Now it's not just Solemn Strikes, but Solemn Strikes are pretty good because if you mix this with like Wind and Water, that was like the biggest issue with Wind and Water, is that although its ability to stop spell and trap cards are great, its ability to stop what your opponent's monsters can do may not be very significant. So you can do something like Strike to like stop them from playing the game. Strike is also great going second. So if you can't play into a board, you can just set a Strike, and then during your opponent's turn, you can use something like Strike to kind of like get rid of some of their interruptions so that on your next turn, on your turn 4, you can start to play the game again. Now, it's not just Strike here. Strike is being mixed and met with Floodgates, right? So Power Sink Stone, this is essentially a funnier skill drain. Theory crafting around Summon Limit before it got hit, right? That's how long ago I was theory crafting Floodgates in this deck. And Summon Limit was like perfect, but like you just couldn't draw it. Like there just weren't enough copies of Summon Limit. It was like the perfect Floodgate, but you just couldn't draw it. So Power Sink Stone still being at 3 is something that I think you can also play at 3, and you can also just play OG Skill Drain. And the beautiful thing is that Planet Pathfinder actually isn't affected by Skill Drain because Skill Drain doesn't affect cards that remove from field for cost. So Planet Pathfinder still works under Skill Drain, which is great. And then you have Floodgate like TC Boo. If there was another Floodgate other than Summon Limit that was really effective in this deck, TC Boo is one of them, because other than Dark Guardian and Gate Guardians combined, nothing conflicts in this deck. Like almost nothing. Maybe if you have 2 spell cut, like if you have Cosmo Queen plus your Wind and Water, you can send Cosmo Queen, but that's not a big deal. Cosmo Queen has to summon itself in defense, so it's not really a big body anyway. And then something like anti-spell for going first to stop your opponent from just playing spell cards altogether, in case you want to go for something more like Gate Guardians Combined rather than for your Wind and Water, because that may be your compromise sometimes. Sometimes you may have to go like Thunder and Wind into Gate Guardians Combined rather than trying to go for Wind and Water. So it really depends on what you open, but I feel like these are the secret texts that like will get the deck up to speed. And I kind of wish there was more Floodgates that we could play. I mean, yeah, you can increase Parsing Stone up to 3, but a lot of the other Floodgates seem to be more good against certain decks and not like universally good. These are like the most universally good Floodgates for right now, but I feel like there may be more. If there are more out there, I'll definitely look into them, but I feel like these are the best ones for now. I especially love that Parsing Stone after a certain point stops your opponent from even being able to activate the effects of face-up monsters on field, so it just really shuts down a lot of what they're trying to do. That is the secret to making this deck as powerful as possible. It really is just playing Floodgates, and we were already kind of playing Skill Drain when the deck first came out, and we kind of steered away from that as the deck kind of came into fruition, and with stuff like Scareclaw and White Forest. But there is almost nothing better than like setting up your board and then like flipping Skill Drain onto your opponent when you have like Combined on the field. So, and just to finish off, Nibiru and Imperm, yes, these are commons, but the shadow foils make them look beautiful, so I don't care. Now for the extra deck, right? Typhon, just as a board breaker. For Gate Guardian pieces, we have double Combined. Your grind game is really good because you are able to get into usually both of these thanks to a card like Dark Element, but you want to play 3, but I'm not sure if the deck has the extra deck space for it. Like, I think playing 3 makes sense, especially if you don't play Dark Guardian, because Dark Guardian is completely optional. But I think if you want to keep your extra deck more balanced, you should keep it at 2. Next is double Wind and Water. Obviously your best Gate Guardian smaller fusion, and it's your Combined goes away. It's either you're gonna summon this or you're gonna summon the Water and Thunder. So the Water and Thunder is also a great fusion for summoning when Combined goes away. I find it's not a great fusion to summon like by banishing materials, but usually when like they beat Combined and then you slap this on field, usually there are a lot of situations it may be hard for them to play around this thing because it targets 2 monsters and makes their attack 0. So it can be really difficult for them to like be able to push through your board, especially when you mix it with Field Spell, you mix it with Shadow Ghoul, you mix it with like just what the deck can do. This card can be pretty problematic for certain engines to get over. Next is Thunder and Wind, right? So Thunder and Wind, it's great for getting you into your engine, and I really wish that this deck had better recursion for its fusion monsters, but for now I think 1 is fine. You can bump it up to 2 if you feel like you're not getting into your engine pieces enough. Like if you're not getting into Dark Element enough, then you can definitely bump this up to 2, or if like the first one gets like negated, you can definitely bump this to 2. But I feel like 1 is fine. I feel like if you have the ability to make 1, then you're probably, and it resolves, and you're probably doing fine. For the sake of space and for the sake of being a little more versatile, I decided to keep it at 1, and I've kind of been liking it. Next are super poly targets, right? So Garura, Mud Dragon, just because these are, you know, the 2 best super poly targets. There are some more that I'm going to show you guys a bit later as like other options you can play, but these are the 2 best ones. And then Thunder Dragon Colossus as another Floodgate on top of the ones that we have in main deck. Our next fusion is something that is really here because it is a way for us to play through Lancia. So this is the Snake Eyes Doom Dragon, and essentially it sends any 2 monsters from Spell and Trap Zone to special summon itself. So if you're under Lancia, or if you want to clear get rid of monsters on field, then you can do this instead of using one of your Gate Guardian pieces. And it really only has one effect. It's like when it's summoned, you target a face-up monster on the field, and then you put it into the spell and trap zone. You can do that with your own monsters, you can do it with one of your opponent's monsters, it really doesn't matter. But that's really all it does. It just helps you clear the field. So it's not great going first, right? You're not going to summon this going first. That's why you don't need to play more than one of these. But it gives you an extra option to where when you're getting your Gate Guardian pieces on field using your field spell, now you have another utility card that you can make. And then for extra deck, right, Gravity Controller. I mean, for Link monsters, Gravity Controller, because it's great with Thunder and Wind to be able to make like a Dark Element play off of it. So you just link this off for this, and then you're able to resolve Dark Element because Thunder and Wind's in graveyard. Cross Sheep's pretty good in this deck because of Planet Pathfinder and because of Magician Souls at times too. But definitely for Planet Pathfinder, since it's not once per turn, being able to search multiple field spells can actually come in clutch. Barricade Board Blocker, as a late game way to recycle your field spells, I think this card goes pretty hard. And lastly, SP Little Knight, just as a utility card. I do want to show you guys a combo, because a lot of times in this deck you're not using your normal summon. Let's do Pathfinder plus Queen. So let's normal, tribute, wall shadow, activate shadow, Kazejin. Oh yeah, you have to use Cosmo Queen to summon herself when you activate shadow. Like field spell activate shadow is when you summon out Cosmo Queen. So just remember that timing. Then you activate field spell to place Kazejin. Then you activate Cosmo Queen to pop. Grab multi-universe, activate, target, wall shadow, put it back on field, wall shadow effect, go for Sangha, and then banish both into your Thunder and Wind effects to grab Dark Element if you don't already have it. If you do already have it, then I would say grabbing double attack is the second best option here. But yeah, for the sake of argument, let's grab Dark Element. Let's link these two. Cross Sheep. And then you go Dark Element, you go Combined, and then Sheep will trigger, bringing back your Pathfinder. Pathfinder can then go for Wall Shadow, and then you can activate Wall Shadow to get your third element in place. And then you can banish Dark Element to add one of these back, which you don't have to do that the same turn, but if you really wanted to, you could. Just so you have access to all three names next turn without needing to do another resolution. So basically, because you have multi-universe engrave, you're going to be able to protect field spell if they try to pop it, and that way you can also basically guarantee that this is going to stay on field until next turn, because they're not going to be able to SP it while Combined's on field. So it's most likely going to stick around, and then you get to go for you know, placing one of your other names, and then you get to go for either another Combined or one of your other smaller fusions. And if they clear to Combined, you can go for like Wind and Water. You mix that with a Power Sync Stone or a like Nib Imperm or the ability to keep going, and you're gonna be pretty good. There are some hands where like if you open that with like Magician Souls, you can keep the Cosmo Queen on field. So that's why it's like you can play more Magician Souls if you want, and then you can keep the Cosmo Queen on field, and then you can just search Secret Village as Spellcaster as that second field spell, and it kind of gives you that option to like stop your opponent from playing spell cards altogether. So then for certain side deck options, I figure Shifter is a good side deck. It's not great with your deck, like it doesn't hurt you unless you're gonna go for something like Dark Guardian, then it fucking kills you. But you can just take the Dark Guardian out when you're putting these in. Jirozo, this is another good Super Poly target. Anima, if you're going to play more copies of Magician Souls, then you can go for Anima. Another copy of Super Poly, right? If you're playing more Souls, then you can go Jirozo plus Anima into your extra deck and probably take out either Barricade Borg. You can take out... You definitely want to keep Doom Dragon in, but yeah, there are a few options that you can take out. Guardian, I feel like if you want to play this going second, I wouldn't do it. isn't good enough for that. So I would say like maybe stay away from this card, but it's an option. And then 2 more Floodgates you can play. So Macro or Defissure, both of those kind of work. Macro is slightly worse, but also slightly better, right? Because no one's going to see Macro coming. Like even in this format, it's like, it's a Floodgate that can be very impactful, but is also like matchup dependent, because playing this into Ryzeal can be very strong because it stops him from doing certain things. Playing this into Fiendsmith is very strong, but playing this into Malice, right, isn't going to do anything. Now, and the Band Played On is a better Floodgate, so basically neither player can summon a monster to the same level or the same rank as those they control. So if you mix this with a Gate Guardians combined, it's going to be very hard for your opponent, right? So if they try to X Ryzeal Aggregator target this, combined can just negate the Aggregator, and they literally just can't play unless they also open like Engraver into this. But Engraver but combined can also stop Engraver. So, and the Band Played On is a great Floodgate to play against those decks. You can play more copies of Doom Dragon if you find yourself going second a lot more often, and you go into a grind game going second. Maybe you can play a second copy of it. I don't think you have the space, but it's definitely an option. Materialization. So this is a card where this will probably be better if you were playing like a small Diabell Star engine. But essentially, it takes a monster from your spell and trap zone. You either summon it, pop a monster with a lower level on the field, or you can return it to hand. And so if your Gate Guardian pieces are stuck in spell and trap zone, like if you have like an extra field spell or something, then you can use this to either bring it out to attack with it, or you can bounce it back to hand to use it for discard fodder, or you can pop a monster your opponent controls with less attack, and it only targets your spell and trap zone monster, so it doesn't target the monster that it's destroying. So that's why this can be kind of cool. Burial from Different Dimension, right, as a way to like summon a second Gate Guardian piece. Gate Guardians combined. This is something that Gate Guardian players were using like when the deck first came out, and I do still think there's some merit to this, but your deck would have to be focused around it. I would say maybe in a deck like that, you may want to play like Triple Nemesis Corridor or something, to where you're just more gas based around summoning out your fusions. Maybe you're playing something like fusion deployments as well. I feel like in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With Typhon and with Link monsters, deployment isn't that great because it's locking you into fusions when you don't get all the benefits of being fusion based. Like you don't get to play any of the cool polymerizations. You can't really make use of any of the future fusions to mill your pieces, so you don't really get the benefits of being a fusion deck. So fusion deployment is kind of mute in this deck. And lastly, I just wanted to show you guys the OG Gate Guardian in a Shadowflow sleeve. It's not collector's rare, sadly. Don't worry that it's not collector's. I'll get a collector's rare Gate Guardian one day, but it is also an option if you want to have it together with his dark counterpart. It is technically playable in the deck, and these two are, it's kind of like bricking in the same way, except this can't be summoned back from graveyard once it's sent there, whereas this can. That's really the only difference. So yeah, I would say definitely more focusing on more Floodgates. Lose one turn kind of doesn't work because you need to control no special summon monsters, and in this deck it's like your best monsters are your fusion, so you don't want to focus too much on that. But I feel like these two and maybe Defissure are like the two best ones. And deck lockdown as well, that's one that you can play as well. If you're like, once you're already set up and you're just looping field spell, you don't really need to search anymore or summon from deck. So deck lockdown can go pretty hard in this deck too, if you have those. Otherwise, I would say this is about where the strength of the deck, right? So Iron Thunder, deck lockdown, and a Band Played On, Macro Cosmos, Super Poly, more copies of Souls if you want to play these three, and then Shifters. These guys are more like optional, and then you can also play more hand traps too. I think Droll's pretty good this format, so Droll could be here too, but we'll have to see. But that's usually a format dependent thing. Droll isn't like universally good in every format.